This specifies on campus and college campuses because of what we do. But that being said, a lot of the principles and topics that we talk about here are applied in a lot of other contexts. We do oftentimes change the name of the this presentation depending on who we are presenting to. So as we're getting started, hello everybody, my name is Ramiro. I use he, him pronouns. I am the director of events for the Post Landfill Action Network. I'll tell you all a little bit more about who we are here in a second, but just some like basic ground information. Plan Post Landfill Action Network. We're based out of Philadelphia, but we're a national nonprofit. I hesitated on the international because we're like accidentally international. Waste is a global issue, as you all know. So it kind of, as schools throughout the other countries have learned about Plan, they've reached out, and we are really bad at saying no. So we've accidentally become international. But Plan itself, based out of Philadelphia, we work with schools all across the country, all across the world. I myself am based out of Philadelphia. I originally graduated from the University of South Carolina. If you all need anything from me, we also have another staff member who is a mentor. Her name is Yanu Corneal. She has been very active in the mentor and others Slack messages. So feel free to reach out to either me or her if you all need anything throughout tonight. I think we both said we'd be pretty active within reason to reach if you all need anything, for those of you who are late night. Black spots in the presentation, where exactly? Is it blocking any of the information right now?
Yeah, it's kind of covering the words, actually.
Is it gone?
Oh yeah, it is. That fixed it. Magic.
Glad I know how to work Zoom. So as I'm introducing myself, as you all are kind of rolling in, I want to hear a quick little roll call, just kind of seeing where people are joining us from. So if you want to throw your name in the chat with name, pronouns, the organization, school, wherever you are joining us from, and a quick little fun sustainability superpower. If you had one, what would it be? Quick little ice-breaking question. I'll start us off just because obviously I have to. I'm the one presenting. I came up with this question, so I've had a lot of time to think about this. But my answer changes what in the mood that I'm in. Currently, I'm really feeling. I think it's been because of everything that's going on in the world, whether that be on the West Coast or the Amazon. If it would be me, I wish I could create a rain that would automatically cause trees to grow. I feel like it'd be very useful right now. But I would love to hear what everybody else is going on. And what this black square is the chat. I'm gonna bring it up every now and then. But I'll throw it off. UPenn Philly. Oh, okay, cool. So someone close by. Yeah, so feel free to throw it in. Michigan. We've had I've been really impressed with where we've had so many people from all over. So it's been really great to kind of see that in the general Slack. So yeah, as we start getting into it, Ianu's also in the chat. So if you all have any questions, I won't I won't keep the chat up just because it's apparently in the way, but Ianu can answer any questions. And there's also a section at the very end for questions. So I'll answer any questions that you all have later on. But Ianu will also be, backing me up in this chat. So thank you all. And shout out Ianu. Cool. So as we're getting into it, I think the format of this presentation is going to be focusing on a quick little introduction to who Plan is, what we do, what is zero waste, and then defining the problem, how we define it, and not necessarily how it is traditionally defined, and then talking about Planned's point of intervention theory. Then talking about student power as a catalyst for change, how we focus why we focus on college campuses and universities with college students. And then once we get into like the outside of that, the solutions, the actions that one that you all are working on today, that's part of kind of like this idea of the hackathon, but showing you examples of stuff that's already going on out there. So maybe you can draw some inspiration, maybe some you can look into a little bit more of the work that they all are doing so that you all can draw from that. So like I was mentioning, Plan is a 6-year-old nonprofit that first started to like dedicated to move out programs. I'm sure everybody who's been through a college experience has seen the at the very end of the year where students throw out a lot of things. Move out is always one of the most wasteful times on a college campus. That's kind of what we saw when we originally built. Our founder, Alex Freed, kind of started the first ever self-sustained student-led move-out program. So it wasn't the first ever move-out program in the world, but it was the first one in the country that was led by students and that it made enough money to pay for itself, which was kind of a unique model at the time. A lot of move-out programs before this were heavily subsidized by the school. So that was with University of New Hampshire's Trash to Treasure back in 2012. That was kind of the first time Plan became a thing. From there, other campuses saw that and they started reaching out. And we as Plan started kind of advising and helping students build move-out programs of their own. But also we kind of saw that when, as move-out programs were happening, there were other waste issues going on a campus. It wasn't just the move out. There was so many other things that students were asking for advice on. So we as a Plan kind of saw that and we started working on campus advising and kind of working with students in these other areas. And nowadays, we offer a lot more than just move out programs. We have worked with some like great organizations like the US Compost Council to like make a whole manual for like how to start a compost program on your campus. We host our Students for Zero Waste conference in Philly that brings 500 students from across the country, from all the schools that we work with to come and talk about waste with waste professionals like Gaia, the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives, or like the Energy Justice Network, and like other students who are doing other like really cool programs on their campus to come talk about what they got going on and sharing that with other students and kind of serving as an opportunity to inspire. Currently we work with 370, that number goes up and down. So a little bit over, like we work with over 370 campuses across 42 states. We also, like I've mentioned, we're accidentally international. We work with college campuses in Canada, Japan, Ireland, Australia, Brazil. This is our team. Actually, our team is growing. Some of these people are no longer with us, and we actually have a new executive director coming on this month. This month. We're in September. What is time anymore? And then we also have a new director of comms, Isabel, who are not pictured here, but this is our lovely team at our office. And nowadays, like I said, we are way more than just move out programs, and kind of what we offer is like campus advising memberships. With that comes like a bunch of manuals, other stuff, kind of similar to this, where like we like help advise students in any of projects that they have going on their campus. We also have a bunch of events, the Students for Zero Waste Conference, which I mentioned is our event, or like our big event that we host in Philadelphia that brings students from all over. Obviously, we didn't have it this year for COVID reasons. And then we also do Regional Beyond Waste Student Summits, which is a series of events that we do across the country. We also do tailored speaking events, yada, yada, yada. Another really big thing that we do is we are the US ambassador or youth ambassador for the Breakthrough from Plastic movement. Some of you all might have heard of it. I saw that we had a lot of UC Berkeley people, a lot of the UC schools just recently worked with and did like passed a plastic ban, which was great. And then we also do Atlas Campus Consulting, which is kind of like helping campuses it's our consulting program that helps campuses revision how they handle waste on their campus, not just from the waste issue, but from a procurement, from stopping the waste at the source, not just thinking about how we get rid of it. So if you all want to learn more about that, feel free to reach out to me or Yanu. Also, you can go check us out on postlandfill.org. But that's not what we came here to talk about. We came here to talk about a zero waste campus being possible. So in the chat, I want to kind of give a quick little, I would love to hear what everybody thinks about what zero waste is, what zero waste means to you all. So I'm gonna leave it up for like a second here, just kind of seeing, when you hear the term zero waste, what do you think of? If you want to send a quick little message in the chat. Circular economy, oof, all right. Obviously, being an environmental justice hackathon, we are a little bit more advanced, so we'll talk a little bit more about that. Less carbon footprint, cradle to cradle products, yes. Minimizing throwaway culture, increasing reduce and reuse, and inappropriate / actual recycling. Wow, okay, these answers are way above what we usually get, but to be expected with the group that we had. Yeah, Iana was mentioning composting accessibility. Most important one, refuse. Oof, good. These are great. These are really good. These are kind of, I'm glad to see the state of zero waste today. This is completely different from what we would have seen even just a year ago, honestly. The term zero waste has kind of changed meanings in a lot of ways, which is really great and it's really incredible to see. But the industry standard definition of zero waste, not necessarily the one that we agree with, is the common definition is at least 90% diversion from landfill to incineration. There's a lot of issues. I can hold a whole other talk about why diversion is not a metric that should be used to talk about zero waste. It's actually a metric that encourages more waste than less, which is kind of an oxymoron in itself, but we won't get into that. I'll give you all the short and sweet version of why diversion doesn't really cover it all. And that's because whenever you're thinking about standard diversion is talking about, recycling and compost. Those tend to be the solutions. You're talking about and when you're talking about like, how do we increase our diversion metric? We recycle more, we compost more. We want the net weight of what we're using or what we're like reusing to be higher. But what doesn't get accounted for in diversion and what often doesn't get talked about is like 90% of the zero waste hierarchy. If you all aren't familiar with the the Energy Justice Network, really go check out their work. But a lot of the things that you all are saying, the rethink and redesign doesn't get talked about in diversion. Reducing, you actually get negatively impacted in a diversion metric if you reduce the amount of waste you produce. Reusing, that doesn't really get accounted for in diversion. So when standard diversion is only talking about this one segment, a majority of the solutions and the majority of the things that we should be doing actually negatively impact your diversion score. And this kind of comes from the idea of how we think about waste. Traditionally, when we think about waste, we are talking about the throwing it away, this concept that we have come up with of away. When Plan, we and a lot of other people talk about waste, we're not just talking about the disposal of a product. We're talking about the entire linear consumption economy. because waste does not become waste only at the stage of disposal. Waste becomes waste from the moment it's extracted out of the earth. When the raw materials are taken out of the ground, that's when waste becomes waste in truly all essence, because there's the production, which often leads to pollution. There's the distribution, there's the consumption, and then at the very end, what tends to be the focus is the disposal. There's 4 stages that traditional diversion doesn't even talk about. So this linear consumption economy, the economy that we all live in, how I'm going to break it down for a little bit more than just that, because obviously this is very big picture. I'm going to start zooming in and we'll chat a little bit more. So I'm going to break it down into 5 topics: consumer culture, landfills and incinerators, environmental racism, the global climate change, and then, resource depletion. And we can't start talking about the linear consumption economy without bringing up the idea of I shop, therefore I am. This is an idea that we have all kind of had instilled within us, that the things that we own define our personality. My favorite example of this is our cell phone cases. We buy cell phone cases because we don't want to have the same phone that everybody else has. Obviously, we buy it for like protection, but like you buy that specific cell phone case because that case defines who that case shows off my personality. What I wear shows off my personality. Your personality and the things that you own are all of a sudden define your social status. They all of a sudden define who you are, like who you associate with. And like that's kind of bizarre because this is ever changing. Because if you have the same things that you have last year, then all of a sudden you're not keeping up with your personality. Your personality is ever changing because you need to buy new things to be able to express your personality. And that kind of goes into this idea of planned obsolescence. So I'm gonna pose a little question in the chat. Make it party. It's a play on words, obviously, of MIP. Toast, play, dance, love, flirt, kiss. What do you all think this is an ad for? Like this is what we get. What do you all think this is an ad for? Let me see. Like wine, it's a good one. Alcohol. Clothing, okay. Clothes. Red Solo cup. Online shopping. A club. Well, I think a few of you might have seen this ad before, but at its core, this is an ad for Urban Outfitters. This is something that and what they're selling you here is not the idea of, they're not selling you clothes. A lot of you said clothes, like that's, yes, Urban Outfitters sells clothes, but this ad is not an idea, like not selling you clothes. It's not telling you what the clothes are made out of. You can barely see the clothes in this image. What they're selling you here is the idea of cool, the idea of like, this is like, they're selling you a lifestyle that like, if this is what you partake in, like if this is like, if you want to be hip, you want to like hang out with like the cool kids, you shop at Urban Outfitters. If you want to partake in this kind of lifestyle, you shop at Urban Outfitters. And that's really funny because I think this is a pretty old ad. Obviously, I don't think this would work as much nowadays. But this changes. What we perceive to be cool, what we perceive to be interesting, it's like not really, it changes because it has to. Going back to, they have to sell us something new. This is our example of things that aren't cool anymore. I had a student arguing with me the other day that this is actually cool again. Power to you. I hey, I think, honestly, I'm kind of for the neon colors. Baggy pants, I'm here. It's pretty cool. Those pants are pretty cool. You see, like, I think this is coming back. We're definitely back on the retro style is coming back on the up and up. But this used to be, and apparently is, cool, but this is an ad from like forever ago. So kind of going on with that, the idea of planned obsolescence. There's two kinds of obsolescence. There's perceived obsolescence and functional obsolescence. Both obviously serve the idea to be able to sell you more goods. But with that, there's like this idea, and there's this quote that we use. Our whole economy is based on planned obsolescence. We make good products, we induce people to buy them. The next year, we deliberately introduce something that will make those products old-fashioned, out of date, obsolete. We do this for the soundest reason, to make money. So this is Brooke Stevens. This is an industrial designer back from the 1958. And this is kind of in itself, it describes the issue. The linear consumption economy, capitalism as we know it, is based around selling us goods. And the moment that people stop selling us goods, the moment industry stops making money, that's no good. Not good for them. And while it might be great for us, while the products we have might be perfectly functional, it's not in the best interest of business to make that. We see that I'm sure you all have seen it more and more with like phones, with the clothing we wear, with the things that we buy. Like they're more and more, I'm not sure how old everybody is in this group, but there was a point in time where you could take the battery out of your phone and replace it. You can't do that anymore. There's a point in time where you could like, if your phone was running out of storage, you could put in a memory card and expand the storage. These are things that like needed to be taken away because people were like, hey, if we stopped giving people that option, they'll buy a new one when it depletes. And like that's like, it can be seen in not technology, it can be seen in every sector that we consume in. I saw a couple people be talking about fast fashion in the chat, and it's a really good one. Ianu can talk way more about fast fashion than I can, but this is just a quick little case study or just showing you a quick little points in fast fashion, just because fast fashion is the second largest consumer of water globally. It produces 20% of the world's water pollution. 10% of all carbon emissions come from fast fashion. On average, the person working in making the clothes is paid $3 a day. And that's, to me, I would consider that modern day slavery. And 85% of all textiles that are thrown away within a year of being made. And that's just our clothes. That's just something that we all use, except for like very niche nudist communities out there. We all wear clothes. This image is of the Rana Plaza factory collapse in Bangladesh back in 2013. I show this image because it was it's often credited as the start of this movement around fast fashion and rethinking how we produce our clothes. And this was a movement, this was a time frame in like history that really highlighted the injustices that were part of the clothing industry. But like this had been going on for years prior, and it's probably going to be going on for years to come. Unfortunately, that's just the system that we live in. So why is that? Why is it that this is happening? Well, we at Plan often kind of take everything back to petrochemicals, oil, that whole industry. Because, you know, why are zero waste, why are you talking about clothing? Well, it's because oil in itself has started to become the oil industry, petrochemical industry, they're some of the strongest, some of the most profitable, some of the most, dare I say, corrupt industries in the world. And they have started to see that people are being more and more inclined to like hold them accountable in other realms. But when it comes to plastics, when it comes to clothing, when it comes to these other, like these goods that we use every day, when you see these goods, you're not thinking of oil, you're not thinking of petrochem, you're thinking like, oh, this is clothing. But in reality, I mean, oil companies have now seen that as emissions standards are like being hired, they're out to be able to still produce the same amount of same amount of oil that they've been using since before. Is plastic, is clothing. It's that industry can be their escape. So thinking about that, what happens to everything that gets produced? It goes to there's three things happen, honestly. It either is sent to a landfill or an incinerator, it gets reused, or it becomes pollution. And obviously we talk a lot, our whole shtick is Post Landfill Action Network. So we obviously have to talk about landfills and the whole concept behind them. I'm gonna open up chat. Has anyone here ever been to a landfill? Has anyone ever seen a landfill? Yes, Mexico. Staten Island, Miami. Yeah, couple in PA. Oof, PA is a good one because PA has good old Chester. Buenos Aires, Argentina. It's a good one. Whenever you go to a landfill, first of all, where do they tend to be? Not in great places, tend to be in the poorer communities. And what are they like? What is going on here? Next to water, unfortunately, way too often. That cannot be good. One of the things that we always talk about when we go to a landfill is like how engineered they are. There is a lot of thought that goes into building a landfill. It's not great thought. Don't get me wrong, but they're really industrialized in a lot of ways. There's these like thick liners that go underneath the landfill to like try to stop all of what we call landfill coffee. It's just kind of this like sludge that just doesn't do great. That has all of these toxins that come from the decomposing thereof all the things that we throw away, and then all of the carbon and methane emissions that come from landfills. So kind of thinking about that, methane emissions in the United States, 18% of all methane emissions come from landfills. That's more from coal. That's more than from coal mining, manure management. It's third, right behind petrochem and fermentation. So landfills are obviously not doing us any favors, but they're kind of often viewed as a necessary evil. Like, what are we going to do with all the stuff that we don't use? And that's kind of where this idea of, wait, I have an idea for, let's burn it. And that's where the idea of incineration comes into play. Incineration is often gets sold as the idea of waste to energy. We are taking something that nobody wants, trash, we are burning it, and we are producing something that everybody wants, energy, electricity. But at what cost? Incineration, produces hazardous ash, is one of the worst industries for environmental violations, the dioxins that they put in, and then thinking about more so, again, the placement of these are not put in the greatest locations. These are put in areas where the local community is at a higher risk. Oftentimes it's just we'll get into a lot more of it here in a second. And I'm going to touch on something that students recently reached out to me about, was chemical recycling. So this is like not new, it's been around for a while, this idea of chemical recycling. And chemical recycling is also I can't speak too much to it on my own, but I would go look at the Energy Justice Network. And it's, in short, also not a great response to it. It still releases a lot of toxins. It's honestly not great, and we're still not at a point where it's honestly feasible. So, okay. In waste to energy, okay, it's producing all of that, but okay, what happens after we burn it? Well, all this hazardous ash that has been created now has to go somewhere. So now, instead of sending whole material to a landfill, we have to send this poisonous, hazardous ash off to a landfill. So now there's a whole other we didn't eliminate a landfill. Now we've just created a new landfill for the ash that we're producing from the incineration. But I mean, what if it's better? What if incineration is one of the better methods of producing electricity and energy? Unfortunately, it is not. We can all agree that coal-fired power plants are not great. They produce they have plenty of carbon emissions, and are like one of the worst carbon dioxide emitters in our country. Incineration, in its core, produces more carbon output than even coal-fired power plants, more than oil, more than natural gas. So this argument that it's better, it's not. It's better, it's worse on every front. We're not eliminating a landfill because we need a landfill for the ash that it's producing. It's not cleaner electricity because it's producing more carbon dioxide than even a coal-fired power plant. So what is the benefit here? You're getting rid of waste, but it's at what cost? You're putting these in. So kind of thinking about where are these like landfills, where are these incinerators being placed? There's this really good quote that we use. All socioeconomic groupings tend to resent nearby sitting of major facilities, but middle and upper class socioeconomic status possess better resources to effectuate their opposition. What this is saying is that nobody likes living next to an incinerator. No one likes living next to a landfill. No one likes living next to all of these big facilities. But people with less socioeconomic status, less money, don't have the means to fight against us. So what we do is we put them there. Let's put them there. They don't have the ability to fight against us. We'll be fine. And I think if anybody, this is the truth. Like, this is what we see these days. Dr. Fong had a really brought up redlining, so I thought, why don't I? But redlining is a practice that happened through the 1930s and was supposedly outlawed in the 1960s. This is a map of Philadelphia, but the thing is with this kind of regulation, with this kind of like policy, you see the repercussions of it for years to come even after those laws are made unlawful. So here is in Philly, you'll see here in Lower West, that is where a lot of petrochemical refineries are in Philadelphia. As you keep going further, there is the Chester incinerator, which is the third largest in the US. It might be the world. Someone can fact check me on that. But it is one of the biggest incinerators that there are out there. A majority of the waste from the Philly area goes to that incinerator. And these tend to be the poor, the Black communities, the immigrant communities. Immigrant communities, these are communities that already didn't have a leg up, and now they're dealing with all the health repercussions that come from living next to an incinerator. Now they're dealing with all of the health repercussions that come from living next to a landfill. So what do they don't have the ability, they don't have the fiscal mobility to like be able to like move anywhere, because that's the only place they can afford to live. And this is kind of a self-feeding cycle, because people are now affected by all of these health repercussions, and they can't further along. So this is just kind of a cycle that becomes self-feeding. Then there's this idea that like all this is if the infrastructure works perfectly. We are often fed this idea that the system is broken. The system is not broken. The system that is in place is a system that has been created, and it's just not a great system to work with it. But what happens, let's just say, what happens if it doesn't? What happens if things aren't going well? Well, we have already seen that 9% of all plastic ever made has ever been recycled. The rest is just pollution. Of that 9% that has been recycled, only like 3% of it has been recycled effectively, which means that it is recycled into something that is just as useful as it was before. So we've all seen the numbers that by 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than there are fish. And that's kind of where Plan starts kind of getting into our theory of change and the idea of, all right, like this is really doom and gloom, but what can we do? What can we do to fix it? So we have what we call our points of intervention model. So here you're going to see on the red line is the five stages of the linear consumption economy that I showed you all earlier: the extraction, the production, the consumption, the distribution, and the disposal. On that line, you'll see all the green individuals. These are individuals who are working actively to try to work against it. So there's resist, there's the redesign, the renew, the repair, the reuse, the recover, and the reclaim, and so many other ways to be to try to work to take the system and make it less harmful, and hopefully get to a point where instead of causing harm, we can cause good. And with that, that's kind of why that kind of brings up the reason of like why Plan works with college students. Why do we focus our work when this issue is so big? why do we only focus with college and why do we only focus with youth? And that's because Plan views campuses as a microcosm for change. Colleges tend to be in their cities. Yeah, that graphic, if you all want to go check it out, please feel free to go check it out on our website. I'll send it out to everybody here after the session. But we view campuses as a microcosm for change because when you think about it, college campuses are like little cities. They are little cities. They tend to be some of the biggest economic producers for where they live, and youth tends to be the ones that want to see change in the future. We have seen it with plenty of other movements before this, but right now the people who are leading the leading voices in the climate action and climate strikes, in the movement for Black Lives, in all of these big movements are young people, because they are the ones that have to deal with the repercussions of tomorrow. Just a few examples to kind of keep going into it are these. These are some like really great examples. There's Greta. There's the divestment movement from both petrochemical as well as South Africa apartheid. There's SNCC. There's the protest against the Vietnam War. These were all movements that were led by young people in their time. And we keep seeing that today with movements like the Sunrise movement, which is majority of them are like 18-year-olds. We have the pleasure of working next to back when we worked from our office space. We had the pleasure of working with them next to them in our office space. All of those movements are were started and led by youth. And kind of thinking about like on campus, or kind of thinking about like this idea, this idea of waste can get really debilitating because it's such a big issue that we think that we can't do anything against it. What waste is going to happen? Like the ocean's going to become all plastic eventually. Like I can't do anything to do that, to change that. So we have a motto, our slogan, some call it, the idea that no one can do everything, but everybody can do something, and together we can work to fix this broken system. We're not in this alone. Even looking at it today, there is hundreds of people just in this hackathon trying to fix some of the biggest issues that are facing our climate today. And I'm going to show you all a couple of really cool examples of projects that we have gotten the chance to work with, just to show off what is going on right now. Because I mean, obviously, doom and gloom, the ocean's going to become plastic soon enough. But there's really cool things going on, started by and led by youth. First of all, the movement to like transition from a linear economy to a transition away from a linear economy to a circular economy. You know, focusing on and why a reuse economy isn't the solution. So when you're thinking about a linear economy, it's going from raw to non-recyclable waste. In a reuse economy, recycling, while still good, waste is still being produced. And the goal should be to reach a point where there is no longer waste. The point should be where we live in a world post landfill. Got 'em. But that's the idea. So kind of working towards a circular economy where everything that we are producing, that we are using, that we are recycling goes back into a system back into the system so that there is no more waste. Because to really fix the issues that we are facing, we have to solve it from the source, and that is from the very top, not from the bottom. So some of those projects that I was telling you all about. So the infrastructure change. We have a saying at Plan, infrastructure change needs to precede behavioral change, because you can't expect people to change their behavior if the infrastructure doesn't exist for people to change. So there's some really great projects that are going on. Another project that we help a lot of campuses do is starting thrift stores, kind of taking what would be clothing waste and kind of giving an opportunity for others to do it. Food Recovery Network, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it. They've grown to be such an incredible project, but essentially taking food from dining halls on campus, the meals that don't get used, and distributing them to individuals in the community who need it. This middle picture is a picture of a move-out program, staying true to the roots of Plan, kind of giving students an opportunity to take all the waste that they do produce at the end of the year and giving them somewhere to take it to instead of just throwing it away. And this last one is a picture of what we do is a repair workshop. So giving an opportunity, teaching students the skills that they need to repair their clothing instead of just having to throw it away. Then there's infrastructure change. Beyond a campus, the Eileen Fisher does a lot of really great things. This is their Renew Lab in Irvine, New York, where they kind of do the whole fixing things, host workshops to teach people how to fix their clothing. They also, sell and do a lot of really cool things. Destiny Watford, for those of you who don't know the story, worked on stopping the production of an incinerator in her community in Baltimore. Did an incredible job. One of the biggest wins in that area. It's a really great story. I would definitely go check it out. She now is working on a ton of other things. I believe she last year received some really big award. Incredible story to go follow. And then kind of thinking about policy and advocacy on a campus. If you're all not familiar with microbeads, this used to be like an abrasive plastic, these tiny little plastics that used to be in a lot of our abrasive toiletries, tend to be found quickly in toothpastes, facial scrubs, all of those. This actually was a thing that started at UCLA. The students at UCLA banned it on their campus, and then they kept working, banned it in the whole city, and then banned it in California, and from California, it went to national. So nowadays, microplastics, these things that used to just kind of wash down our drain, and a bunch of little microplastics used to end up in our drain, in our water supplies, are now illegal across the country. And that all started on a college campus. This one is a project that we helped with in University of Puerto Rico, where the University of Puerto Rico banned all single-use plastic water bottles. And that kind of leads into the Breaking from Plastic movement that we work with. So that's kind of getting college students, putting pressure on their president to sign a commitment to take off all single-use plastics from their college campus. College of the Atlantic was the first school in the country to sign it. And nowadays we see the UC system recently, I think last month or last week, signed a whole thing where now the whole UC system is working on becoming plastic free. And then outside of beyond campus is the Right to Repair movement, a ton of other movements that are really great to kind of become a part of. And then on innovation on campus is Soul Bunch, that take food scraps and produce cookies from them, based out of California. This is what's going on here in the middle is a brand audit, which we are hosting next month. So if you all want to learn a little bit more about that, is kind of essentially taking all of your waste and tracking who is the producer of it. Last year in the global brand audit, I believe Coca-Cola was the world's biggest producer of waste. We'll see who it is this year. And then the Atlas project, again, is the idea of working with college campuses beyond just how they deal with waste once it becomes waste, but kind of trying to prevent waste from the beginning. And then research and innovation, B Corps, and then a couple of these organizations that we have the pleasure of working with. Patagonia is a partner, Eileen Fisher, Seventh Generation, Ianu can tell you the rest of them that we work with, but we work with a lot of these really great corporations to kind of fix that. So that's it. That's from me. I'd love to, if there are any questions, I'd love to hear. And I'm gonna, is there a way we can sign up for the newsletter with Plan? Yes, there is a way to sign up for the newsletter with Plan. Ianu, can you share that link?
Yeah, I will share that link now. And if you don't mind, I'll just like leave my mic on. So if there's any questions, since I'm here. But yeah, I'll share that link now. There was a question from Aaron that I think is worth checking out, Ramiro, in the meantime.
I've worked with some accessibility advocates that take issues with plastic straw movement because it's an important innovation to support folks with certain disabilities. How do we create a compromise with these conflicting needs? So this is actually something that we do address pretty heavily within our Break From Plastic movement, making sure that that any accessibility needs that are needed are met. So it's the idea where we are not ready to transition to a plastic-free world. That is just the infrastructure that has been created. So for a lot of people, straws are the only way that they are needed for accessibility reasons. And it's also, we also see that in a lot of medical equipment and a lot of like medical waste, a lot of lab equipment as well, where it's not safe for them to like reuse certain parameters. So making sure everything that we do, we try to, and we are obviously always listening with how to like making sure that we are making this movement an equitable one, that it's not, we aren't leaving people behind. So how do we compromise for conflicting needs? The infrastructure needs to be created before we can move beyond that. How can we help achieve zero waste on an individual level? So that's really interesting. Obviously, we all encourage, Plan encourages people to work to live more sustainable lives, but we kind of go against the idea of individual change. It's not fair. We have been fed by the plastic industry. Somebody mentioned Plastics Wars, and it's a great documentary. I highly recommend everyone go watch it. I'll get to that in a second. But there's this quote from Plastic Wars that really stuck with me, and that recycling was created by the plastics industry to sell plastic. We view that the change needs to come from higher up, but also understanding, and Ianu, it seems like you wanted to chime in here, that we also do from an individual level. We work with, and Ianu is probably gonna talk about this, we do work with brands that we like view are supporting the holistic zero waste movement. Ianu, were you trying to chime in or? No?
I wasn't, but I can. I just was gonna say, like, although, at Plan, like Ramiro just covered, we do talk more about systemic change and infrastructure change on a campus or in a city. We do understand that it is important for everyone to be zero waste in their own lives. So like we, for example, you know, we try to bring reusables to the office. Well, back when we had an office pre-COVID, we would bring reusables to the office, and, you know, like use compostable dishware when we can. And so, I mean, what I can do is we have a whole set of partners that people within the Plan network get a discount to like buy zero waste lifestyle products. And we do that to kind of help encourage folks to just start in the zero waste lifestyle and get acquainted with it. And also if they want to do some kind of zero waste like giveaway on their campus or something like that. So, you know, I guess the short answer to that question is how just like be more mindful, you know, like just try to buy reusables when you can, like bring your own bag to the stores, these kind of basic ideas of how to be zero waste. What I can do is, you know, we don't really have very many resources on how to be individually zero waste, but what I can do is look up some of the resources that perhaps our partner networks have, and send that out in the Slack after this.
Okay. How closely does Plan work with policymakers? Because we are a 501c3 for basically like nonprofit stuff, we can't play a lot of roles within politics. That being said, we currently launched a program in the Ohio River Valley, working with, what we do is kind of encourage students to focus on their policymakers. So we've had a lot of really interesting work, specifically in the plastics industry, in the plastic side of our work, where we have had students do like accessibility, or what's the term? Essentially like asking their schools to give them like contracts that are tend to be like held behind like lock and key, specifically with Pepsi and Coke. And kind of help, we do provide students with like their own, we encourage students to like work with policymakers, and we kind of work from that side of things. There's a lot of things that we do. Garbology is a funny mention. So like I mentioned, I graduated, I have a degree in marketing. So fun things. It's a good book, would recommend. Are glass and aluminum still considered 100% recyclable? Recycling is hard because recycling varies by county. So recycling even in the same state changes by county, from county to county. So I can't, sometimes. Aluminum is still considered pretty like recyclable across the board. Glass, some places don't have the infrastructure anymore to recycle it. And again, it's the whole idea of infrastructure change needs to precede behavioral change. If we don't have the place to recycle glass or aluminum, then no. As we're closing out the hour, there's a few things if you all found this interesting, if you want to keep being involved with like Plan, we do have a couple of really cool things. Hopefully people don't get mad at me for self-promoting, but you all can become a partner, get involved, become a member campus. If you think what we do is interesting, go check us out. Yanni's been dropping links. Thank you. You can learn a little bit more about what Plan does there. We also have a series of events going on throughout the next couple of months. It is where we're doing like movie nights, where we are showing movies that aren't necessarily, that kind of show the whole intersectionality of the zero waste movement, not just talking about waste. We're starting that in 2 weeks with COVID's Hidden Toll. We're then also watching Plastic Wars, Flint's Deadly Water, which is like kind of talking about the whole everything that happened in Flint, Michigan. It's a story that I find incredibly fascinating, and it's a really good one. Merchants of Cool is kind of talking about planned obsolescence and that idea of marketing around it. COVID's Hidden Toll is talking about like how essential workers have taken on this very like critical role throughout COVID, and these essential workers tend to be people of color, immigrants, farm workers. So it's really interesting. If you all want to like learn more about that, follow us on social media. We also have this really cool series that we were working with Gaia called False Solutions. That goes way more in depth to everything that I talked about here, and then some. And that is alongside Gaia. If you all aren't familiar with Gaia, they are the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives. Nailed it. And these are incredible. I will work with everybody to send out links if I'm allowed to. We're going in incineration, mixed waste processing, and recycling, and other less desirable options with the Association of Mission-Based Recyclers, which are great. So those are 3 sessions that we have going on later on, and that's pretty much it for me. I'll hang out here for a couple more minutes if anyone has any like underlying questions. And if you all want to reach out to me or Yanu, here's our emails. Follow us on all the socials, obviously. But yeah, thank you all so much for having us. Good luck to everybody who's going to, I know there's going to be all those peeps that are going to be working through the night. So, get some caffeine in your systems. If you'll need anything, me and Yanu are both very much night owls. So reach out. We got y'all.